Your film is about a species that I don't think most people know about, the vaquita, the world's smallest whale, and it's endangered. And the story is so much more complex because it involves the Mexican cartel, the Chinese mob, and the vaquita is actually collateral damage in this like illicit drug trade for another fish's swim bladder. So can you explain how the vaquitas become endangered and how you first learned of their plight?
Well, the big story behind it, I think, is that we have, in this case, organized crime attacking planet Earth. And very few people know that the wildlife trade is the fourth biggest industry in the world in the black market, you know. And these organized syndicates around the world are feeding off our precious animals, making millions of dollars, and nobody's even aware. So these animals, they're not going to be facing the issues of climate change because they will have disappeared before that even takes effect. And the vaquita story is one of the most extreme cases because, you know, this is happening to our south of the border of the United States, to our south of Calexico, in fact. But nobody knows that there's this giant attack happening. There's a war, and the vaquita may go extinct in the next 12 months. There's less than 15 left right now. It's the smallest whale on Earth. The vaquita is a beautiful little creature straight out of a Disney movie. You know, it looks like a mix of a dolphin and a panda bear. That's why they call it the panda of the sea. And as you said, it's only dying because of collateral damage, because in this case, the Sinaloa drug cartel has discovered this giant market of swim bladders that the Chinese love so much. And the swim bladder comes from a fish called totoaba that, you know, I had also never heard about. Like when I started this project, I didn't know what a vaquita is or what a totoaba is, but I know what it meant as a symbol for what is happening to our planet. To get this totoaba, which they have named the cocaine of the sea, they actually literally kill anything that swims in the ocean. They drop thousands of nets into this ocean. They're like walls of death, and they clean the ocean of life. But all the cartel cares about is to get that one fish, and they cut out the swim bladder, and then they sell it to China, where it can fetch $100,000. So this war is happening right now. It is very extreme. It is very dangerous, but nobody knows about it. That's why I think we call it Sea of Shadows, because the war is happening in the shadows. And we wanted people to understand this is happening in your backyard, and we better wake up, or, you know, it's going to get really terrible and really sad down there very soon.
In the film, you talk to a lot of sources, like informants who are part of, you know, the trafficking, like both sides, like, you know, in Mexico, and you obviously have to protect their identity. So was it difficult getting people to go on the record, and how did you get access to these people?
Well, in general, it's a good question. In general, this was a very, very difficult topic for us, because any movements we were making, we were in hostile environments. So the people were watching us. We had to create cover stories, cover identities. We had to always pretend to be natural history filmmakers. Like, oh, we're just here to film some beautiful vaquitas. Like, don't mind us. Like, we're not even looking. But in reality, we had a full undercover operation going. And of course, we knew that at one point we would get exposed, and people would know who we are and what we're really after. But I think the most difficult challenge was to tell a story under these circumstances and to get out of it alive, because, you know, I had a big team. We were 12 people all together working, and a few of them were entirely only in charge of making sure we're safe. Like, they were listening in on the fishermen talking in the bars at night, and they would try to warn us if something was brewing up. But yeah, I mean, we had whistleblowers come out and tell us the truth and talk, you know, what is truly happening, how the cartel is extorting them, and how they are pressured into this as well. And you know, now they owe them a lot of money and they're after their lives. And these people needed to be protected. But especially the heroes, we have these fishermen who are trying to resist the cartels. And until the very end, like, we portray them in the film as a symbol of hope. Like, you can resist evil, even under all this pressure. So we wanted to highlight them, but it was very tricky for us to put them in the film, because we have to live with it if something happens to them because of the film. So we showed it to them. We made sure they not only them watched it, the grandpa and grandson, the Valverde family, but also that they watch it with their sisters and loved ones and, you know, the mother and all of them. So, you know, we provided them a link and then talked, like, are you sure you want to be in the film?
You
and
would
they
have
were
removed
absolutely.
them if they
Sorry?
You would have removed them if they
I
didn't
would
want-
have,
yeah.
of course. I mean, if, you know, to protect their lives, of course. I mean, of course. We would have removed them, made sure the story will be told in some other way, but, you know, we would never have risked the lives of these people. But they were so proud. They were so much like, thank you for giving us a voice because we have lost our voice. The cartel has suppressed us, and here we are now speaking from the heart, the honest truth, and we want people in the world to understand what is going on here and what is happening to us. So they were like, thank you for giving us the opportunity.
Yeah, because the film also spotlights some of the illegal fishermen, and then like at one point a riot breaks out because like some fishermen have been arrested, and then another point there is this like boat chase in the dark at night, and it kind of feels like you're watching this like action thriller before you remember like, oh, this is real, like this actually happened. So what was the most dangerous situation you guys found yourself in?
The most dangerous situation happened after the riots. There's this moment where we got in the middle of this completely, you know, into a situation where everything was out of control. It was the worst case our bodyguards had warned us of. If you get into a mob and they're coming to lynch you and to basically kill you, that is like at all costs has to be avoided. And suddenly we were exactly in that position. Stones came flying, hundreds of them. You know, you had like 200 to 300 poachers. They were not just fishermen; they were cartel poachers, and they wanted to free the 3 prisoners which were in the Navy base. And we didn't know it was going to come to that, but when it did, you're like, okay, now it's about survival, especially once they started shooting. We didn't know who's shooting at who, you know. Bullets were flying around. We heard them ricochet around the walls, so even you hear just, pew, you know, and you're like, okay, that could have hit me, like even if they wouldn't target us directly. So we ran for our lives and everything, but it actually got more dangerous. Like we got to safety and then we got out of the danger zone, but the problem was that we had been exposed. The cartel has seen us with the cameras. They have understood, oh, you have also been on that Sea Shepherd ship, and we have seen you in the harbor with those fishermen. And, you know, so they put one and one together, and they understood we are not the friendly camera crews that is just here for, like, some wildlife. So they followed us home. And that night, a car showed up, and bodyguards called me down and said, there are some people here and they want to talk. And I was like, what's going on? So I went down and they said Oscar Parra, which is the big cartel boss that we have been after for many, many months, wants to speak to you. Actually, he's giving you the opportunity for an interview. And I'm like, okay, that's odd. Like, okay, now? And they're like, yeah, but you have to come alone. I'm like, well, I'm sorry, I'm not coming alone. We're like a film crew. Well, you can bring one person. And then I was really getting worried. This guy had just shot a soldier 3 weeks ago in the streets. It's even in the film.
Yeah.
He's out of control, very dangerous guy. So it was this moment of like, what do you do, right? So a filmmaker side was like, wouldn't it be incredible to get some time? But then on the other hand, he'll probably kidnap me or do something very bad. So I said no. And at that time, we became the enemy, and they came back to our house at night, and they circled the house, and they did this to us. And then we knew, okay, now we're really in trouble. And we left that night at 4 a.m. with a military escort, and that was the last day of the shoot. So that, I think, was the most dangerous moment.
Wow. Thank God it was the last day.
Yeah. Well, we had been shooting for 8 months, and it was literally at the end of everything when there was, you know, I knew it wasn't going to get any better, and we had most of the story in the can. But basically, it was just no matter what, we had to get out of there,
Right.
because it
Your
got
lives were at risk, yeah.
the lives of all the friends who are with us. All of us were like, okay, this is it. You know, we've reached maximum capacity of what we can do, and now we need to get out and tell the story.
Well, one of the most heartbreaking moments in the film is when Sea Shepherd, this organization that's trying to cut out the nets and rescue the remaining vaquitas, they save a vaquita and they bring her back to this like man-made tank, and it seems like it's all going well. and it feels like a win, and then all of a sudden things take a turn for the worse. So can you talk about what it was like filming that moment?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't Sea Shepherd. Sea Shepherd was just removing the nets. That was Vaquita CPR, the scientists, that story. And they had been allowing us access from day one, and we were there to follow their rescue operation. And we thought, this would end well. You had 90 of the best scientists in the world with the best intentions, and they were going to rescue those vaquitas and put them into a safe sanctuary. So we were like that was the wildlife story we were kind of following in the beginning. But then, it didn't turn out so well, and everything went wrong that could have gone wrong, which was very, very unfortunate, because I know how much these people cared and their hearts and love was in it. But it failed, and for me, this was the most difficult scene to shoot, because you realize that this is, it was the less than 1% chance of what happened. And to document this and to be there was extremely difficult, because, these people started, breaking down and crying, and it was really like you just want to be invisible and not even be there, but yet you are there to document every moment, every step of the way. And don't forget, we were the first film crew in the world ever to film a vaquita. That animal had never, ever been filmed before. It's the most elusive, rarest animal on Earth. And there is no film footage of it. So it was such a huge responsibility to be there and to witness those moments. And literally, the most thing I was worried about is that red light that should be on is actually not on, because you're so nervous in that moment. I'm also the cinematographer on the film, that sometimes in those extreme scenes, you actually forget to press record. You're just like, you're holding your breath yourself, And that's, but it was very hard to go through that moment.
Well, after the Ivory game, China banned the trade of ivory. Do you hope Sea of Shadows will accomplish the same with the swim bladder?
We already have huge momentum going. The film was released in Mexico in early September. But before that, we had 4 screenings at the United Nations headquarters, 2 of them in Geneva, 1 in New York, 1 in Vienna. And the momentum is huge. The Mexican government has understood that the world is watching. Before that, it was something nobody has ever heard about, so they didn't care much. It was kind of in their backyard, but like, who cares? It will go extinct and nobody won't even have known they were there. But now the world's attention is on this. National Geographic is putting it out, so it's going to be in 172 countries on November 9th. So they are under immense pressure to deliver results, and they are stepping up their efforts like never before. They just committed 600 additional troops to the area. They have dedicated 14 warships to protect the Vaquita refuge from the cartel. We're in close touch with them now. They are targeting the Chinese mafia that is running the entire trade, which is based in Tijuana. So they have accepted all the information that was received via Earth League International, one of our big undercover stories in the film. So we're very hopeful. But the best part is that about 3 weeks ago, 6 vaquitas have been seen. 2 of them were babies.
Oh, wow.
And so they are reproducing. They were really young. They were maybe 4 to 6 months old, and there's photos of them. So they're still there. They're fighting for survival, and we're trying to amplify that message and give them the spotlight they deserve.
That's great. So what are you working on now? What's your next film?
Well, if I could tell you. Well, no, I have a big project next, but I'm trying to keep it. It's again with Leonardo DiCaprio, our executive producer. And I'm trying to keep a low profile because it's going to be quite dangerous again. It's a very big story. It's developing. You will hear about it very soon once we're ready. But right now, as we will need to go undercover again, I don't want to expose it really. But we already got the green light. We're in development, and we should start shooting by June next year.
Awesome. Well,
right?
good luck with that.
Thank you.
Can't wait to see it.